Honourable David Carter.
Speaker, I want to start by acknowledging the special atmosphere that's in the House today, as all members who have contributed to this debate acknowledge, as Clayton Collisgrove said, that in dealing with this emergency, we need to deal with it without politics getting in the way. And I've got to say, I knew we were in for a special time when I came up to the Cabinet on Monday immediately following the quake to learn that particularly the Labor opposition had been prepared to cooperate by allowing all Canterbury members to remain in Canterbury and still have their vote count through the parliamentary process. And I want to thank all MPs who contributed to that and say thank you very much. It was great to be able to be away last week in our home region. It was something that all MPs from all over the all political parties had the opportunity to do, and yet Parliament was able to function. I guess Saturday the 4th of September delivered, in my opinion, the greatest disaster New Zealand has ever seen. Now, in saying that, I acknowledge that if you measure it in terms of loss of life, gee, we were lucky. There were no loss of life, and that in itself is an absolute miracle. But when you consider the scale of the event, the fact that it hit Christchurch, the second largest city in New Zealand, and its surrounding regions, in dollar terms, there is no doubt that the disaster we're dealing with there is of immense proportion and something we've never seen before. I personally was not in Christchurch or at home at Teddington on the night of the earthquake. I was in Auckland, and it was a pretty scary experience to receive a phone call from home at 5:30, and the terror and fear in my wife's voice will be something I'll never forget. So the issue for me was then to get down to Christchurch as quickly as possible. And I walked into that emergency centre that had been established at the Art Gallery. I guess we got there about 3 or 4 o'clock with the Prime Minister, and immediately realised how the city had responded. It was quite incredible. You see these exercises around civil defence and sometimes question the worthiness of them, but to see the established civil defence emergency working in such a coordinated fashion was actually a pleasure to behold. And I congratulate everybody who was involved in that. Now, I realise there was a major one in Christchurch that I'm talking about. There were other centres established both in Kilmore Street by ECANS. There was also centres obviously established in the Selwyn district and the Kaiapoi district. Sunday, I spent my time out in the Selwyn district, and again, the resilience of those farmers that have been affected by this disaster is something I will never forget. The way they cooperated to make sure, first of all, that they and their families were okay, their animals were okay, and then immediately looked to the neighbour, who they automatically assumed would be worse off than they were, was something that is about the spirit of Canterbury. It's about the spirit of farmers throughout New Zealand. We saw some tremendous examples. One I can quote is a dairy shed designed for 400 cows, milked 3,000 cows in a 24-hour period. And bear in mind that for those involved in dairy farming, this is, without the earthquake, the most stressful time in there, and your calendar is in the midst of calving. So the emergency stage, I think, worked particularly well, and I congratulate everyone who was involved in that. But we now move to the recovery stage, and that's exactly what this legislation is about. It is an extraordinarily powerful piece of legislation, and there is an act of faith by all of us who are voting for it that it will be used and used for what it's meant for. But I think if we've developed the spirit of political cooperation that I hear, that I feel in the House today, I've got no doubt that as we move through the next stage of the recovery and deal with issues that we haven't even thought of as of today, that we'll find a way for this bill to work, or this bill or act as it is, being flexible to work to help assist the recovery. Mr. Speaker, how long will it take for Canterbury to recover? I don't think any of us know that. But I just want to make a point around thanks and congratulations to those who have been involved in the immediate recovery. Seeing Christchurch on Saturday the 4th, and now going back there a little over a week later, you've got to acknowledge the huge amount of work that's been done to clean up our city already. Mr. Speaker, I don't suggest that every part of this recovery is going to be easy. It won't. But if I could return to my original point And as Clayton Cosgrove said perhaps half an hour ago, we've got to keep politics out of this recovery. And if we do that, then I have no doubt the recovery process will be a lot quicker. And I equally have no doubt that out of this disaster we'll build a stronger, a more beautiful and a more vibrant part of New Zealand. And I wish all Canterburyans well as we embark on that endeavour.